CD Projekt Red's next game is by far one of the most anticipated titles coming in hopefully the near future. Since being revealed back in 2012, we have not seen much from this upcoming game, at least officially. As some of you who have followed my Cyberpunk 2077 videos would know, we've discussed a lot of insider information and things being said by CD Projekt Red employees about their upcoming title. Even with a lot of the exciting leaked information that has been made public, and even CD Projekt Red recently promising no bullshit with Cyberpunk 2077, there is a problem that is lingering. Back in the middle of October of 2017, CD Projekt Red released a statement regarding worries coming from their Glassdoor review page, which highlighted problems within the studio. CD Projekt Red's response kinda circled around the issue, saying departures from the studio do not have an impact on Cyberpunk 2077, and that their approach to making games is not for everyone. As I stated within my own video breaking this down, this response really only caused more red flags to go off, and made me think that maybe all is not well at CD Projekt Red right now. Since that statement, employees of CD Projekt Red have anonymously been sharing their accounts from their time at the studio. Most recently, in early November, YouTuber Yongye published a video titled "Ex-CD Projekt Red Devs Speak Out Against Studio's Mismanagement." This video would go on to go in depth with two former developers telling of their time at the studio and the problems that face CD Projekt Red. Now, thanks to some phenomenal investigating done by YouTuber The Mad Queen Show, as well as help from the SSS League, this problem is getting the attention that it needs to get. These two YouTube channels have been the source of some massive leaks regarding Cyberpunk 2077 over the last few months, leaks that CD Projekt Red has not addressed at all. I highly recommend that you guys check their channels and videos on Cyberpunk 2077, there will be links in the description, but as of recently, I have been in contact with them and their latest story shines a much bigger light on the work environment within CD Projekt Red. 43 former and current developers from CD Projekt Red have made anonymous comments regarding their time at the studio. These comments clearly showcasing that a strongly worded statement is not enough to change the problems that are going on from within. I think I speak for most when I say we want CD Projekt Red to be better, so hopefully by raising the voices of these developers, change will happen. So it's important to understand what I've gathered from most of the opinions and comments I'm about to present. Most of these developers agree that CD Projekt Red is not an evil company, it's a company that has problems that need to be addressed, but thus far they've really just been ignored. I also need to note that every single CD Projekt Red developer's comments that I'm about to report has been done on an agreement of confidentiality. With these individuals all signing non-disclosure agreements, none of their identities will be mentioned, as obviously CD Projekt Red isn't going to like hearing any of their former and current employees making statements about the studio. The first comment I'll be presenting is an interesting view of the studio. A CD Projekt Red employee says instead of talking all the allegations and statements that they wish to discuss how they feel working at the studio. So they say, quote unquote, "Do you think that SpaceX employees always work 8 hours per day, have no stress at work, never have to push themselves to the limit, and are always happy and undisturbed? Do you think every single employee believes in Elon Musk's decisions and competences? Now, does anyone seriously believe that what SpaceX does is easily achievable with no stress, no crunch, no conflicts, and no sacrifices from anyone but Elon himself? Are you worried that SpaceX will fail because one or two engineers left unsatisfied? What I want to say is that CD Projekt made me feel like I launched a space rocket. If I wanted to drive a tricycle, I would apply to kindergarten instead." As I stated before, this is an interesting view in which this developer pretty much implies that they know there will be hardships, but they choose to do it because they love that they're pushing the boundaries and creating things never before done in this gaming industry. Another more positive opinion comes from a senior developer at CD Projekt Red currently working on Cyberpunk 2077, who says, quote unquote, "In my 10 years of career, I've been in companies that make you do overtime without pay, give you a month's notice to be fired before asking you to do more overtime, that pushed fresh students from school to suicide due to pressure and bullying from their boss, but of course, you never heard of them because they're insignificant. CD Projekt Red is in the high tier, my best company in 10 years in this industry in terms of working conditions, but success brought always unwanted attention of those who want to hurt it." That last line is really striking because it's true, say as you wish, but a lot of people really do want the worst for CD Projekt Red. Now the next statement comes from a developer that worked on The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and it definitely is a completely different opinion than the previous two. This developer says, quote unquote, "When in BioWare they say that they had 3 months crunch, we laughed. During The Witcher 3, a lot of people crunched for over a year, some of them for 3 years. The Witcher 3 development kept getting worse by the month, the morale got very low, and everyone ended up complaining during crunch supper. Some of us were still looking forward to being moved to Cyberpunk and having a fresh start with a new project. When we finally started switching to Cyberpunk, things got even wilder, even more chaotic. At that time, almost everybody in my team wanted wanted to leave. The last time I discussed CD Projekt Red developers making complaints of poor working conditions, a lot of people did not understand what was wrong with that, some thinking that it's just normal with making games. The same can be said about Rockstar Games developers making similar complaints. I just want some of you to know, at most gaming studios in any workplace, a lot of this is not normal, but again, it seems there are a lot of differing opinions from within CD Projekt Red, with some developers acknowledging there are issues and others saying that this is the best company that they've worked for. Thanks for the research done by the Mad Queen Show. She found that a lot of the issues developers had depended on which department you worked in, and who was the manager of said department. One senior developer at CD Projekt Red also highlighted another striking issue with how the company is managed, saying, quote unquote, "There are elites that have been here forever, and they are in a management position more because the company trusts them on a personal level due to the years of companionship, rather than for their experience because some didn't work anywhere that wasn't here. When CD Projekt started to shine, it attracted talent whose expertise was way beyond, and this talent just couldn't understand how these managers did not listen to them, as they clearly had more experience than the leads." As you can gather, this developer claims that some positions have been given based on relation rather than merit, which has caused issues, especially since it sounds like the egos of some of the leads is disrupting the workplace. Now, this developer continues adding another layer to this issue and highlights the mismanagement, saying, quote unquote, "A director comes and asks you to implement a new feature is not a surprise, but when another director, who you also have to respect because he's your boss, comes and asks for a feature that contradicts your first order, it just leaves you with a face of, what the fuck am I supposed to do?" Another experienced developer who served as a team leader on The Witcher 3 also highlighted the mismanagement by bringing up an example, saying, quote unquote, "A director played a game this weekend, so when he's back at the office he wants a feature he saw there implemented in our game, and because a feature works in one game doesn't mean it works in another, and doing so in the middle of production breaks the game because the rest of the game is not thought to fit the feature that came out of nowhere. If you implement something new, it needs to be studied by the experts, and needs to be well designed to fit the game and the vision. Doing otherwise is not efficient nor professional, and it neither works." Continuing on, another developer added, quote unquote, "Some days it was a lottery. You were afraid what managers played or saw the day before, as they would come to you with random ideas that were not efficient and didn't seem well thought out. And you know what that meant? Overtime. One batch of overtime to implement a useless feature and a second batch to make it disappear again. It's always frustrating to make changes to your work, but if you saw they were good in the end, you were happy because our goal is to make a better game. But way too many times we ended up spending time and work just to be wasted because some orders were given on a whim." Next, a developer who worked on The Witcher 3 talked about Adam Badowski, the head of the studio, saying, quote unquote, "Adam is a charismatic leader. We all respected his capacity and achievements. We were willing to follow his vision without question. I just wish all managers respected him. Half of us developers did. This would have made life at Red much easier." As it's been noted before, when The Witcher 3 wrapped up, a lot of developers left the studio, something that has been a problem at CD Projekt Red dating back to the first Witcher game. After The Witcher 3 was completed, developers received a bonus, and those who stayed received a significant pay increase. Many of the developers who stayed hoped that after The Witcher 3, a lot of the issues that I mentioned would be resolved. This leads into our next statement, coming from a developer working on Cyberpunk 2077, who says, quote unquote, "In the middle of 2012, the Cyberpunk team was established. At the same time, The Witcher 3 was in the works. Those two games had different leads and producers, but it became a problem when The Witcher 3 was finished. Adam Badowski had a problem. He had two groups of managers, one which was involved in Cyberpunk for years but did not deliver any significant stuff, and the other, experienced developers who delivered The Witcher 3 but had no experience or involvement on Cyberpunk. So what did Adam do? He suggested to them that they should do what they can, and they started to play against each other with harm to the project and lower employees." Another developer added, quote unquote, "The managers were constantly measuring their dicks, and they were more worried about being right than the opinion of experts about what they wanted. They didn't mind being disrespectful to lower employees." As you can see, there are problems, but many developers have admitted as of late things have been improving since an important phase of development has been reached, so the crunch has stopped as of now. But this leads into the statement CD Projekt released following the attention that was drawn to their Glassdoor page, which showcased the problems facing the studio, and some of the employees were not happy with the statement. One ex-developer says, quote unquote, "This statement was a mistake, not only accepts the problem as a part of the way that they make games, but also tries to justify justify with the quality of the final product. Another developer chimed in saying, quote unquote, "It pissed a lot of people off here. All it did was just acknowledge that there's an issue and did not address any of the points raised in the critiques." And another developer said, quote unquote, "You can't believe how much it hurts when you give all you had to make the best game possible, and in exchange, you're called lazy because you can't deal with their chaos." Most of the developers that were interviewed agreed that this controversy was being blown out of proportions, but that there are real issues that need to be resolved and not swept under the rug. As I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of developers stated that they love this studio, and it truly seems that they want it to improve. One developer stated, quote unquote, "CD Projekt is not an evil company. From a production and business standpoint, they might have fallen into the impression that this is how things are done, and we crunch not because we're told to, it's because we care. We had to do so to deliver something that we could be proud of. It paid off. I want to stay at the company and keep doing what I do." Thankfully, it's been said that Cyberpunk 2077 is in good shape right now. As expected, these developers are tight-lipped on the project, but one developer said the development is on track, and another says you can feel the progress every week, both in performance and in visuals. Additionally, one developer who came to CD Projekt Red just because of Cyberpunk 2077 says that they are truly excited about the project and cannot wait to show it to the world. Hopefully you understand why it's important to raise the voices of these developers. Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a huge game, possibly another revolutionary title, but what has happened thus far for CD Projekt Red is a messy track record with employees. Mismanagement and organization is a problem, and when you have a lot of your developers happy or not with the company admitting that the work environment is chaotic, that's something that needs to be addressed. It does seem that from the 43 developers that gave statements, it depends on which department said employee worked in, because there were varying opinions, with some developers saying it was one of the worst companies that they worked for, and others saying it was one of the best. As one developer noted, the big issue that has been a problem and still is the management, with the workplace feeling like a Game of Thrones. His exact words, not mine. CD Projekt Red is considered one of the best developers for a reason, but I think it's important for their leadership to understand that their fans are waiting patiently, and hopeful that you don't rush this and deliver a phenomenal experience just like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which unfortunately had a troubled development. Hell, one developer even said that they did not think the game would be a masterpiece till 1 week before it launched. Either way, again, massive props to the work done by the Mad Queen show as well as the SSS League, but I do want to include a statement provided by the Mad Queen show that tells CD Projekt Red that we stand behind them and we want them to be better. This statement, I'm only going to read part of this statement, but I will leave the full thing on the screen. It says, "Dear CD Projekt, we trust you. Your commitment to delivering the best quality games is beyond question. We believe that you won't mess with us with any pay-to-win bullshit. We trust you because you don't treat us like brainless kids, and because we can see how much care you put into the products you deliver to us. We're so excited to see Cyberpunk 2077, but we don't want to pressure you into hurrying and making rushed decisions because you feel like you don't have time to stop and think." Now, the Mad Queen show has also included a hashtag we can wait to let CD Projekt know that we are behind them and want the best for one of the best developers within this gaming industry. As one developer noted, quote unquote, "This really is one of the last bastions of hope amongst the corporate greed and control we can see from the likes of EA and Activision." Anyway guys, thank you for joining me, and I really do wish to know what you make of these former and current developer statements. Let me know in the comment section below. Also, make sure to smack that like button if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for all the latest on Cyberpunk 2077, and I'll see you later.